Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of The Push with Nick and KP. I'm KP, and today here over at The Push, we do have a NXT recap ready to go and lined up. This is the Tuesday, 13th of January edition. This comes off the back of a very shocking ending to NXT Week the previous week, where Femi would actually relinquish his NXT Championship. So, how about we break down everything that happened across the course of the show, across the course of the night, and let's discuss all the happenings. So, first and foremost, like I mentioned last week, the NXT Championship was relinquished. So, that would mean that we would have to obviously get some sort of details as to what's going to be happening next. Ava would open the show, the general manager, and she would basically have the NXT title on the mat right in front of her. She picks it up, she's got the men's division gathered around the ring. There are guys all around the ring from the likes of NXT and Evolve. And lots of names sort of like looking to perhaps sort of like stake their claim to become the next NXT champion. So as Ava is basically just opening up an opportunity for everybody involved, we hear the music of Ricky Saints before he makes his way down to the ring. Ricky thanks everyone for being here, as well as Ava for hosting this whole situation. He would claim he ran the NXT Stand and Deliver main event away, as they've now gone over to the main roster, before then saying that he's the then, the now, and forever. He assumes he's going to be the two-time NXT champion before he asks Ava to hand over the championship right there and then, but Ava does deny that opportunity. She announces a 6-man ladder match, which is going to be taking place on February 6th for the NXT championship, and that qualifying matches for that ladder match will start next week on NXT. The title gets raised up above the ring, sort of like on the little grapple thingy that the superstars have to climb to grab a hold of in order to actually win the championship. As that's being risen above the ring, we then see a bit of a brawl, a mass brawl erupting between everybody on ringside. All the men's divisions are basically going at it here. And we see, especially here, Keanu Carver of Evolve. He has been in and around the Evolve Championship situation for quite some time. Never actually won it, but has been sort of like one of the bigger names on Evolve. And he would make quite a notable impression here. He would put Britt Jensen through a table, through an announce table on the outside of the ring, as well as at one point launching the Evolve champion himself, Jackson Drake, to ringside. So I think a lot of spotlight was put on him in this opening segment, in terms of like coming out from this brawl. And Ricky Saints sort of like hightailing it up the ramp, sort of like trying to avoid any sort of situations here, watching on from a distance, so basically just seeing what's going down. But yeah, we've got a 6-man ladder match coming on up, and the qualifying matches, that one started next week. Going into that, we see our first match of the night, which would see Lola Vice go one-on-one with Kalani Jordan. This would be quite a fun, entertaining matchup between both ladies, just very high-paced and pretty even, to be fair. It was really split between the two of them, extremely back and forth, just literally the tide just like turning side to side every so often. And yeah, it was basically just move between the two ladies. It's actually a really, really fun contest. In the end, we do see Kalani Jordan looking for a 450 splash, but she actually misses the target. Lola looks to capitalize and gets actually pushed into the turnbuckles as a result. Kalani attempts to do a roll-up pin just after the connection with the turnbuckles, and she holds the ropes in order to sort of like give her some leverage during the cover. The referee does notice this, however, and stops the count from taking place. Kalani then complains to the referee, getting a little bit too mouthy, and she then eats a spinning back fist from Lola Vice, and that would grant Lola the victory in this contest. So Lola's got her sights set on the NXT North American Championship, which is currently held by izzidame after her win over Thea Hale last week. And Lola made that very clear, with a victory here over Kalani Jordan, that she is literally looking to go straight after izzidame right there and then. Coming up next, we would have our first championship match of the evening. And that would see Jasper Troy defend his WWE Speed Championship against Tavion Heights. This one would be quite a fun, fast-paced match. Obviously, the Speed Championships normally are, but obviously we get an extra 2 minutes because it's the final contest, being a championship matchup. And I think Tavion Heights and Jasper Troy sort of like matched each other's styles for quite a large part of this one. Jasper Troy, sort of like that big power game that he's got, but Tavion Heights is no slouch in that department either. He's got some physical standing of his own. And they seem to just bounce off of each other for quite a large part of this one. It got to a stage where Tavion was really sort of like rallying momentum here, and he tried to sort of like seal the deal. But Jasper Troy, a little bit too much on his game at the moment, and he would actually counter, Tavion Heights sort of rise in momentum, and he would hit a black hole slam in order to get the victory here and to retain his WWE Speed Championship. Post-match, we do see a little situation with Lexus King, who did get eliminated last week in the speed tournament by Tavion in very quick fashion. 8 seconds, I think it was, in the end. And yeah, Lexus King, clearly not forgotten about that, would lay out Tavion Heights as the segment comes to a close. So still some ill feelings there between the two men, especially more so from Lexus King. But at the end of the day, Jasper Troy retains his speed championship, and he goes on to, just to see who his next contender is once all comes back around again at some point. Before our next segment, we would actually go backstage to Ava, who's got more announcing to do, and she would be involved in a triple situation here between 3 women's tag teams of the NXT division, and that would see the likes of Zaruka, Zarya and Sol Ruka, as well as the Ren QCC, which is Ren Sinclair and Kendall Gray, and Fatal Influence. All 3 of those ladies were there, and basically the situation here is that JT Jane thought that the conversation was going to come over to her, but actually, no, it's not, because they were talking about some tag team opportunities here instead. And it turns out that the 3 teams will actually be involved in a number 1 contenders match next week, where the winner of that one will be the number 1 contenders for the TNA Knockouts Tag Team Championship. So, an opportunity for these women to go and take some TNA gold. Who will win that matchup, we'll find out next week. But sticking with the women's division, we would go into our next segment after that, and that would see Blake Monroe, the woman who has been so unfortunate recently because when it comes to the North American Championship, which she did once hold, and has already had 2 title holders since. But she tries to sort of like come out here and basically just stamp some authority on the situation. She talked about last week and how she attacked Hale before their match, saying that it was actually management that caused the chaos and made her look like the problem when they asked her to leave the building. She says that with people as talented as herself, nobody actually knows what to do with them. She then says that she's the standard and the most complete woman in NXT, before saying that she didn't lose control last week, but instead she actually just lost her patience. As Blake's sort of continuing here, she does then get interrupted by a returning Jada Parker, who gets a really big reaction from the NXT crowd. The audience are absolutely going crazy for her on her return, and Parker attempts to basically just say that she's back, but immediately gets cut off by Monroe. The 2 throw hands in the ring, and then Parker ends up hitting a hypnotic onto Monroe, sending her crashing to ringside in order to end the segment. So yeah, Jada Parker is back. She's sending a message to Blake Monroe here, and definitely doesn't look like Blake Monroe is getting her NXT North American Women's Championship back anytime soon. But it looks like these 2 are going to be definitely stepping into something between the 2 of them, which is definitely quite an interesting situation. But it's good to have Jada Parker back, and yeah, she had a great reception from that as well. Going into our second half of NXT now, we would see our second title match of the night, and this would be the TNA International Championship being defended by Stax against Shiloh Hill, the LFG Season 2 winner. This one was a decent matchup, to be fair. It was quite fun. I think Shiloh just brings a decent energy when he's competing in matches, and I think Stax is doing some tremendous work at the moment. Both men just sort of like having a bit of a purple patch, really. And with this particular contest itself, it was going pretty standardly, as you'd expect. Quite fun, but also quite level and competitive. We get to a stage where Shiloh has some interactions with Ariana Grace on the outside. That sort of like goes back to last week with the whole tooth situation. And Ariana freaking out, sort of like tries to sort of get herself away from Shiloh. They get back into the ring. And it gets to a point where we see Shiloh attempt a cradle on Stax in order to get the pinfall. But Ariana Grace pushes Stax over onto the top of Shiloh, sort of like transitioning the way over, so that it's actually Shiloh being pinned by Stax. And that would be enough for Stax to retain his championship, just having Shiloh down for just enough time to get that 1, 2, 3. So yeah, we do not have a new champion here that's been crowned. Stax retains his TNA International Championship after defeating Shiloh Hill. But yeah, nice, fun, easy contest. Nothing, nice and simple. Just decent enough to keep things moving along quite smoothly here. Once all that is said and done, we would then see izzidame hit into the ring next, and she would be cutting a promo, claiming how she hasn't stumbled into success, but actually she's just outsmarting everybody else. She questions why everyone was so happy that she lost to Tatum Paxley last week, before saying that she didn't waste losses, and she doesn't rest on her laurels. She picks herself back up, she analyzes the situation, she analyzes the women in the back room, and she basically just puts that loss to Paxley as an opportunity to give her some clarity on the situation. She looks to those in the conversation of stepping up to her and her North American Women's Championship first, before then laying down her devious credentials. She's interrupted then swiftly by Tatum Paxley, who charges to the ring past some officials in order to attack Dame. Once she's sort of like separated, I guess, a little bit from Izzy, who's escaped to ringside, she actually takes out an official. I guess you could say it was kind of by accident. She seemed like it was an accident, but yeah, maybe there were just some ill intentions there from Paxley, just sort of like getting out the aggression inside of her, and it just sort of like running wild. But yeah, she does take out an official, so probably going to be seeing a little bit of a punishment coming her way off the back of this one. But izzidame, she was cowering at ringside, clutching her championship, into a midriff as the segment come to a close. So yeah, definitely no sort of love lost here between these two women. It's currently 1-1 between the two in, one-on-one action, so I guess a rubber match makes sense. And now that Izzy's the NXT North American Women's Champion, there's a bigger prize on the line. So yeah, interesting to see if we do get that coming forward sooner or later. And then finally, we will go into our main event of the night, which would see Joe Hendry go up against Dion Lennox in a no disqualification contest. This one was hellacious. It was so much fun to watch. It was a really good, enjoyable main event. There was just so much going on. We had Dark State on the outside. Obviously, they're going to be accompanying their boy Dion Lennox, which makes sense. And we also had OTM accompanying Joe Hendry after a conversation last week, trying to sort of Joe getting into the good books of OTM and trying to convince them to help out. And it made the impression last week that they weren't going to, but actually they came down straight away during Joe Hendry's entrance, and yeah, they were there for a big part of it. And they played a big part of it in the closing stages because they basically allowed Joe Hendry and Dion to go at it by themselves. After they would sort of like cancel out Dark State, they would brawl away from the action. And once that was all said and done, there were some really big moments in this contest. We saw weapons being used throughout the entire matchup, as expected. But towards the late stages, we saw a standing ovation from Joe Hendry, which Dion Lennox would kick out of. We saw Dion Lennox hitting his big move onto Joe Hendry as well, but he would kick out of that one. Joe Hendry then also hits another standing ovation, but this time onto a steel chair, which Dion Lennox kicks out of again. We would see Dion Lennox spear Joe Hendry through a table. Again, Joe Hendry kicks out of it. So it seemed to get to a point where what was it going to take for these two men to actually get a victory over each other? And I'll tell you what it was going to take. It would take Tony D'Angelo coming on in and having his say in the contest in order to get a victory and a result here for one of these men. And Tony D'Angelo would come on in. He would strike Dion Lennox with a chair in the back as Dion was looking to strike Joe Hendry with a chair. And as that was taking place, obviously Joe Hendry's very confused. All of us are watching, we're quite confused as well. Tony D'Angelo just hits a spine buster on Dion Lennox before then turning his attention to Joe Hendry, who'd offer a hand to him, helping him up to his feet. And yeah, probably shouldn't trust Tony D'Angelo, Joe Hendry, because he got a spine buster for his troubles as well, and he would be laid out. Now, with both men laid out in the ring, Tony D'Angelo just stood over them. Tony just lifts Joe Hendry, plants him on top of Dion Lennox, and that is enough to grant Joe Hendry the win. By hook or by crook, by, friend or by foe. I guess you could say that Joe Hendry wins this one by pinning Dion Lennox, but it was only because Tony D'Angelo literally allowed him to. So, yeah, it was quite a bold statement at the end of the show. We then also see Ava coming down with security post-match, and she tries to sort of deal with the situation, but Tony just lays out every single security member that comes his way. Quite badass, really. And yeah, he sort of has a bit of a stare down with Ava before he then just starts walking up to the back. So yeah, that would be the end of the show, and quite a statement made by Tony D'Angelo here. We've seen some interactions with him, I guess you could say, him just being spotted in the crowd and, coming in and just taking people out one by one here and then. But this was actually him interfering in a matchup and, in the main event. So I guess just showing his presence here. And yeah, it was quite the interesting situation. So looking forward to seeing where we go from here. It's just a weird ending. It's quite bizarre, but it's quite intriguing. I'm quite interested to see how we do go from this one. But yeah, that's basically NXT in a nutshell there, to summarize quickly and, effectively as possible, I guess I could say. In terms of the show itself here, really quite liked it. It had a nice flow to it. There were some good matches. The main event was quality. I thought that, generally speaking, just the promo work was quite decent overall on the show. And a returning Jada Parker is always great as well. So, yeah, glad to see her back. And, yeah, it's just quite a solid show. NXT never seems to miss. And I wouldn't say there was anything absolutely spectacular on this show, but it was just a solid, decent show. I give this one an 8 out of 10. So, yeah, really can't complain about how it all sort of went down. It's just, a very valid, solid, decent show. But for now here, guys, that has been the review of NXT for this past episode from The Push with Nick and KP. If you like this one, then please consider hitting a like on our video, subscribing to our channel, and letting us know what you think of this one. Let us know in the comments. We'd love to hear everything that you guys are thinking, whether it's good, bad, and different. We're open to any single thing. But for now, everyone, take it easy, take care. We'll see you all next time. This has been The Push with Nick and KP. Catch you next time. Cheers, everyone, and goodbye for now.